This is PSN Newsrun, streaming exclusively on YouTube.
Welcome to PSN Newsrun. Federal Executive Meeting approves dialogue with striking health workers, and Nigeria Downstream oil and gas sector calls for government intervention in Dangote direct supply move. The Federal Executive Council has approved sweeping contracts worth over 4.5 trillion naira covering roads, bridges, aviation and power projects across Nigeria. President Bola Tinubu during the meeting ordered for continuous talk with health union to avert the looming strike. Joycelyn filed in this report from the State House.
The meeting, presided over by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the Presidential Villa Abuja, set the tone for the 2026 budget preparations. President Tinubu opened the session by swearing in Nana Uzo Kalu as the Southeast representative on the National Assembly Service Commission.
Do solemnly swear that I will be faithful to the actual allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that as a commissioner, National Assembly Service Commission.
The highlight of the meeting were the approval for the Ministry of Labour and Employment for the implementation of the National Industrial Policy 2025.
This policy is essential for regulating the conduct of the various trade unions within the industrial relations space in the country. This is due to frequent industrial actions over the years caused by the lack of a comprehensive national policy. The policy will ensure a seamless workflow, promote social dialogue and tripartite cooperation among government, employers and workers.
Also approved is an order by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice on the dredging of Lagos areas.
An Honorable Minister of Justice to come up with an executive order specifically now for the Lagos area relating to the dredging of sand within the Lagos area. Recall that last year the Federal Executive Council has already approved that within a 10-kilometer radius, those who are mining sand or those who are dredging close to bridges will have to tread with caution so that they don't also destroy our bridges and federal government assets around them. But
the Renewed Hope Cultural Project was also approved by FEC, which is to increase cultural tourism in the country.
The Renewed Hope Cultural Project looks to really increase our cultural tourism and creative assets from the federal government to the state government. It's essentially a handshake and a partnership from the federal government and the state government. I think what we have seen is that in the past we have worked in silos, and essentially I think we've all known what needs to be done in every single state. It taps into the unique peculiarity of every state.
But most importantly is the warning strike embarked upon by doctors and nurses. According to the Minister of Health, the Federal Executive Meeting encouraged continuous talks with the union to bring about an end to the strike.
We acknowledged that a recent circular by the Salaries, Income and Wages Commission, which was based on a prior agreement, precipitated discontent among various health professional groups. And once those discontents were made public and by those associations, this is a listening government. The circulars were withdrawn, and now we're in the process of negotiating in a transparent manner the increment in allowances so that we meet those health workers on the needs that they have expressed. And we are currently also in active dialogue with the key professional associations, NMA, which had provided an ultimatum, but in negotiation with its leadership, which was very constructive in its approach, I think extended that ultimatum while many of the outstanding issues have been looked into, including their outstanding arrears, for which the Minister of Finance is going to ensure that those are being defrayed over time.
Several massive infrastructure spending were also approved. This included roads and bridges, which amount to about 3.5 trillion naira, was approved for major road rehabilitation and new projects across the country. This includes emergency works at the collapsed Kefi flyover in Nasarawa State.
75 billion was already paid by Mr. President, 30%, and work is going on. We've done over 30% of that Section 1. Section 2 is 164 kilometers, that is 502 billion, and Mr. President has just released 30%, which is about 150 billion that will hit the account of the contractor in the next 2 days. And so we have directed the contractor to expose his commitment in not less than 6 sections doing the same thing, because we gave 14 months for that work to be done. Not also done, Mr. President, released also 30% of the Enugu-Onitsha road, which is 72 kilometers. That's 150 billion, so 45 billion is being released.
On the aviation sector, over 900 billion naira was allocated for the total rebuild of Terminal 1 of the Muritala Muhammad International Airport in Lagos, expansion of Terminal 2 runway and lightning upgrades at Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, and rehabilitation works in other airports nationwide.
Understand the high traffic in Lagos. So let me just give you a hint before the full briefing, before we start. That new terminal on the right cannot take the traffic now. The type of traffic, you can see that we still operate from the old terminal. So we went there on that day to map out somewhere behind the new terminal where we are going to put a temporary structure to still process passengers for departure and arrival. Because once we thought of doing the old terminal in phases. The first thing was look, close down. We have D and E there, wing D and E. That's how we number them. So we thought we were going to start from E, then use D, and when we finish with D, we'll now use E. We now thought, look, that was going to waste our time. It's better we do this once and for all.
Meanwhile, on power, the council approved 68.7 billion naira for electricity projects in universities, teaching hospitals, and rural businesses. These projects fall under the Energizing Education program, aimed at cutting energy costs and improving supply reliability for critical institutions.
Second approval has to do with approval for the award of contracts for procurement of renewed hope infrastructural development fund projects, agricultural centers of excellence projects for the rural electrification agency. This is meant to extend the transformation in the power sector to our rural community dwellers, especially those that do not have grid extension, and is actually in pursuit of our resolve to ensure that no Nigeria is left out in our transformation in the power sector. It's not limited to just lighting up the households. It also includes ensuring productive use of equipment to be powered by solar sources.
Vice President Kashim Shettima and the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Staff, and several ministers attended the session. The administration described the approvals as part of its renewed hope agenda to boost economic growth and strengthen Nigeria's infrastructure backbone. Reporting for PS News, Joycelyn Ella Keche Ada.
Job loss and business shutdown fears are rising in Nigeria's downstream oil and gas sector as Dangote refinery signals plans to sell fuel directly to consumers. Let's join Joycelyn once more for details.
Industry players under the Nigerian Oil and Gas Suppliers Association, NOGASA, say the move could destabilize the market and put thousands of jobs at risk. At the association's annual general meeting in Abuja, President Bernard Curry warned that bypassing marketers to sell directly amounts to vertical encroachment that could dismantle the country's distribution network.
We need to call the attention of the government to intervene by telling him, please allow the port to do what? Please. If only you distribute product, there will be serious scarcity. Imagine all of us saying, okay, do it alone and no problem. I close my station, everybody close their business, everybody close their little and allow it to. You can't. And if you're distributing it alone, the day you will have problem, it becomes problem for you to reach out to us. And by then we're already a dead horse. Maybe one of us will go into carpenter or mason.
According to Curry, direct sales by Dangote would trigger widespread job loss among depot operators, truck drivers, and fuel station workers. Independent marketers could also face business shutdowns, creating ripple effects of poverty and insecurity in communities reliant on the downstream economy.
So I don't know what happened to NNPC. I'm not saying that's what happened to NNPC, but I'm saying I'm suspecting, because everything was smooth until the NNPC go into that business of distributing products that are lead to filling stations, own filling station by themselves, branded filling station by themselves. And of course the problem, except you are not in Nigeria to know what I'm talking about, those filling stations are there, they have to pay. They are not operating full capacity because there's no product. You can't meet them. It's not easy. So my advice to him is that go back, call a stakeholders meeting, call all the people that you know that are into the business. You have Dapman, you have Mona, you have Nugasa, you have Pedro, you have Idman.
Supporting this concern, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, warns that if Dangote refines, stores, distributes, and set pump prices, it would act as both a market player and a regulator. Petron President Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry describes the looming situation as a job loss and business shutdown crisis, similar to what is seen in the cement industry, where distributors exist but prices remain high.
With a production capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, which has now been upped to 700,000 barrels, Petron simply argues that Dangote refinery should be competing with global refineries, not operating as a distributor in the downstream. We have Nogasa that's more than able to do it. We have NATO that's able to do it. We have PTT that's able to do it. So there is no reason for a giant to be in the midst of Lilliputians to oppress and keep the whole system. So that is our first argument.
The AGM drew key players from across the downstream sector, and with Dangote refinery set to start supply on August 15, 2025, marketers are calling for urgent dialogue to prevent market disruptions and the safeguarding of thousands of jobs in the industry. The AGM drew key players from across the downstream sector, and with Dangote refinery set to start supply on August 15, 2025, marketers are calling for urgent dialogue to prevent market disruptions and the safeguarding of thousands of jobs in the industry. Reporting for PS News, Joycelyn Ella Keche Ada.
On the international scene, Kiev has been hit by one of its deadliest attacks in months. Russian drones and missiles rained down on the city, killing at least 31 people, including children, and leaving more than 150 injured.
Russia launched one of its deadliest attacks on Kyiv in recent months, firing waves of drones and missiles at the Ukrainian capital. At least 31 people, including several children, were killed and more than 150 injured. Officials say residential buildings, schools, and medical facilities were hit as the strikes overwhelmed air defenses. Emergency crews spent the night pulling survivors from the rubble. This attack is being described as part of Russia's intensified summer campaign, aiming to break morale and stretch Ukraine's resources. Kyiv has been targeted repeatedly since the war began, but the scale of this assault stands out. It signals Moscow's willingness to escalate even further, possibly in response to Ukraine's deep strike drone attacks inside Russia. Analysts also warn it reflects Russia's strategy of exhausting Ukraine ahead of winter, when energy infrastructure becomes even more vulnerable. For Ukraine, the strikes are not just a humanitarian tragedy. They underline the urgent need for stronger air defense systems. Western allies have pledged more support, but deliveries are slow. Every delay leaves cities exposed to mass casualty events like this one. As Kyiv counts the cost of this latest attack, the question is whether the international response will match the scale of the crisis or if Ukraine will continue facing these assaults largely on its own. Tessa Phillips, PS News.
And now to the sports desk. It's been a big day in sports, from the Tigress extending their dominance at the Afrobasket to record-breaking moments in swimming and major moves in the football transfer market. Here's Sam with all the details.
Nigeria's women's basketball team, the Tigress, trashed Cameroon 83-47 in the Afrobasket quarterfinals to book a place in the semi-finals. Ami Okonkwo led with 15 points, while Victoria Macaulay added 10. The defending champions remain unbeaten in the tournament since 2015 with 27 consecutive wins. They now face Senegal as they chase a record 5th straight Afrobasket title. Yo Zadai, a 12-year-old Chinese swimmer, claimed bronze at the World Aquatics Championship in Singapore. She swam in the heat of the 4x200 freestyle relay, helping China qualify for the final, where our teammates secured 3rd place. Though below the usual age threshold, Yu competed after achieving the A standard time at China's nationals, making her as one of the sport's youngest global medalists. Liverpool have entered official negotiations with Newcastle for forward Alexander Isak, with the player set to be keen on the move. Meanwhile, Florian Wirtz has been handed the iconic number 7 jersey, while Hugo Ekitike will wear number 22. Manchester United winger Alejandro Garnacho is reportedly interested in a switch to Chelsea. The London club is weighing up a formal bid before the window closes. Tottenham Hotspur have secured João Palhinha on loan from Bayern Munich with €30 million buy option. The Portuguese midfielder strengthens Spurs midfield depth for the new season. This is Samuel Akman for PS News.
You just watched PSN Newsrun, streaming exclusively on YouTube. This is your trusted voice for news that matters. Subscribe, like, share, and stay informed.